Hi, I'm Evie, also known as V Design, and I designed the Lily side tie wrap top. This is the tutorial on how to make it. You can purchase the pattern on my Etsy, which will be linked down below in the description. And in this video, I make this top here. The shirt that we're making has fully adjustable straps on both sides, a button in the middle, and a bow on the underbust with two darts as well, one here, and an open front. The bust panels are also fully lined. I've done different colours to make it easier to follow the tutorial, but you don't have to if you don't want. And here's the back. I'm wearing one that I made a couple weeks back. It's really comfy and it's really easy to put on. You don't have to put it over your head because it's a wrap top, so you can just undo the button and undo the side tie and it fully unwraps, which makes it really practical. And it's also can be very well adjusted, so the straps are adjustable with the tie. It's also perfect if you're in between sizes because of the button. You can change the placement of the button to make it tighter or looser. For example, put the button a bit further up here if you want it a bit tighter. And the bow here also acts as a tightener as well when you're putting it on. So it can be adjusted in 3 different places, which makes it perfect for when you're in between sizes, or if you're making it and you've made it a size too big, you can just move the button and make it a bit smaller. So it's pretty lenient and it's hard to go wrong with this top because it is a beginner top. And this is my first ever pattern that I've ever made, so I would appreciate advice in the comments or in my Etsy reviews if you have any adjustments that you want to be made for if I release another pattern, then it would be very much appreciated. I hope you enjoy the video and it makes sense to you. And also I apologise for my voiceover. It was really awkward to film because I'm not good at voiceovers or talking to the camera. So I apologise in advance. Bye! First, use a washable marker and draw on the points on the pattern on all 4 pieces, on the lining and the main fabric. Then put a pin through the top point of the pattern so you can see where it is on the other side, and then draw with the pen. Rather than marking through all layers of fabric, you can cut small notches about 1 centimetre in so it transfers through both sides of fabric. I also did it for the bottom darts as well, cutting 3 notches where it is marked for my size. Put a pin through the top of that notch as well, mark it on both pieces of fabric. Then I took all the pins out and joined the lines of the markings. Do it for both sides, making sure they're both the mirrored versions of each other. Mark the middle of the bigger dart. The total length is 4, so half of that would be 2, and connect it to the bottom line. This is what it should look like once it's done. This is the lining fabric, so you want to do the exact same with the main pieces of fabric. When sewing your darts, you want to put it on a straight stitch and the shortest stitch length possible. Fold the dart down the middle where we drew the middle line and line up the notches. Then hold in place with pins or clips. By sewing with a shorter stitch length, it means that the ends won't be pointy, which can cause pointing where your boob is, which we do not want. When you're sewing, you want to backstitch the start but don't backstitch the end. Instead, at the end, we're going to tie a knot.
Also, please ignore how chipped my nail polish is. I need to redo it.
You only need to tie the knot around 2 times. Then we're going to do the exact same thing to the bottom dart. It's a bit smaller, so it's a bit more fiddly, and I didn't use pins because they're too big for it. But it's pretty self-explanatory and it's not too hard. And you want to tie a knot at the end of this one as well. This is what it should look like on the right side when you're done, and the back side, and you want to do the exact same thing but mirrored for the other lining fabric. Make sure it's mirrored. You also want to do it for the main fabric and make sure the main fabric is mirrored as well, because otherwise you'll have 2 left boobs. This is what all the pieces look like. As you can see, there's 2 left and 2 right for each fabric. Then we're going to bring it to the ironing board and press. I press the bigger dart upwards and the smaller dart towards the side seam. Do this for all your fabric pieces as well. Now we're going to use the fusible interfacing. You don't need a lot of this, just 4 squares. And we're going to put it in the corners of each piece of fabric on the wrong sides. What it does is makes the fabric stronger, so when we do the buttonholes and the button, it won't warp over time. And mine's iron-on interfacing, so I need to go to the iron and press it down. When you buy it, there'll be instructions on yours if it's any different. But please do use interfacing because it's very important, and I've tried it without, and over time my buttonholes did warp a bit and went stretchy and lost their shape, so it's very important. Now we're moving on to the ties for the bow at the waist, and there's a little hack where you can put a pin in the ironing board and pull it through, and it helps to fold your fabric in half when you iron it. It's a bit like having to make bias tape, except I didn't cut on the bias. You can cut on the bias if you want the tie to be a bit stretchier, but it's not really necessary. Once you've pulled it through, you want to fold it down the middle, which the needle does help with, and then iron it down, pull more through, and iron it down again. Once you've done it for both ties, fold it in half again and stitch over the fold line, which just keeps it in place. Once you've finished, to make sure it doesn't fray on the ends, I cross it over and do a straight stitch across the top and back stitch on it, and then cut off the excess. This just helps it not fray in the wash and won't come apart. And you should be left with 2 ties like this. Now onto the straps. This is a different method where you can't see the stitch on the outside. So you want to press it down and you want to leave a 1 centimeter channel down the middle. I did mine a bit too long, so I had to do another stitch, but it should be 1 centimeter. And then you get a safety pin and attach it to the top and feed it through the tie. It's a bit fiddly. There are other ways to do this, but this is my favourite way. If you want to do a different method, if you don't have any safety pins, you can use a needle, but there are other tutorials on YouTube to help you with that. Once you've stitched it, I forgot to mention you also want to cut the excess off so it doesn't get caught when you're feeding it through. And then bring it to the iron and make it flat and have crisp edges. Get the main fabric for the left bust template and attach the lining fabric, which should be the mirror image of that, right sides together. Make sure it's definitely the left bust template of the main fabric because this is the one we're attaching the tie to. Place the tie in the corner of the template and put it inside, making sure it's definitely inside so you don't sew over any of the tie. And then pin it in place. Now we're getting one of our straps and we're going to do the exact same thing but attach it to the top. Make sure this is definitely the straps. You can tell the difference because the ties have a stitch that you can see and the straps have a hidden stitch inside. And there's 4 of them. You also want them to be poking out a little bit, which just ensures that they definitely won't be pulled out when you're wearing it. And it's probably around 1 centimeter you just want hanging out. Make sure you push all the ties in because we don't want any of them sticking out. Then we're going to sew around the whole thing, making sure to leave an opening so we can turn it inside out. And we do it towards the bottom, just so it's more concealed. And also we want to backstitch over where the straps are because that just makes them more sturdy. Now we're going to turn it inside out, making sure all the corners are fully pushed out. If you want, now would be the time to top stitch around the edges just to flatten it all, but I didn't do that for this one. You should also probably press it down so it's flatter, but I was too lazy to do that as well, so I'm sorry. Then do the exact same thing for the other template, making sure it's definitely mirrored. If you have a fabric where the right side and the wrong side look quite similar, and it's not obvious, then this can be difficult. Just make sure it's the opposite of the one that you've just done. The only difference is there's not a tie, there's only a strap to put on, but you still want to leave a gap to turn inside out.
So yeah, just make sure that there's just one strap and there's no tie, because only the left bust template has a tie. The other tie is going to be in between the front panels and the back panels.
And make sure you backstitch over the strap once again, just to make it even more sturdy, so it definitely won't fall out. A top tip to help get the corners out is to get a pin and stick it in there and pull out the fabric like that. It's because it's quite small, so it's easy to do. You should be left with this, with one that has a tie and one that doesn't. The left one should have a tie. Then get the button you've chose and mark it on the left bust template, the one that has a tie. We're going to make the buttonhole. Also make sure it's definitely over the interfacing, which we put on earlier. Then sew your buttonhole, making sure it's the same length as your button so it can get through. Every machine's different, so I'm not going to do a tutorial on how to sew a buttonhole because it wouldn't be the same. Then get your seam ripper and rip the inside so you can create the hole. There should be interfacing in the middle, which will make this a really sturdy buttonhole. Now onto the back, get the main back fabric and the shorter top panel and put them right sides together, pinning them, and then sewing along where it's pinned. Make sure you're pinning the straight edge of the top panel, not the curved edge.
And also the back panel goes out at the sides. That bit that goes out is the bottom and the shortest width is the top. I would have shown you, but I can't fit it all on frame, but it's the same on the pattern.
Once you've done that, you want to either serge the edge, or if you don't have a serger, you can use a zigzag stitch on your sewing machine. This ensures that it won't fray. Then we take it to the iron again and flatten it downwards. Then we need to hem the top part of the top panel, so I fold it over and fold it over again to create a double hem and straight stitch along there. You can iron it if you want or pin it, but I find it just easier to do it. But if you're a beginner, then you should probably pin or iron it down because it makes it a lot easier. And this is what it should look like once it's done. Now it's time for the front pieces. Make sure they're both mirrored, which is already written on the pattern, and you want to get the straight edges, which is the middle, and do another double fold on the wrong side. Do this for both of the panels and it should look like this. It creates a really neat fold. Then we're going to serge the top edge of the panel, or you can zigzag stitch once again. And we're going to fold it over and straight stitch so the serge edge is hidden. And do this for both sides.
Now we need to close the hole on the bust panel, so just fold in the extra fabric and pin it in place. I didn't realise that I was out of frame here, but yeah, it's kind of self-explanatory. Just fold it in on itself and then pin it, and then we'll do a straight stitch across. It doesn't have to be the neatest because this is going to be hidden inside the shirt anyway. And this is what you'll be left with once you've done it. And now we're going to attach the bust template to the front main fabric. This is where we do the construction. We're going to start with the left bust panel and put right sides together on the left front panel. And you need to start on the right hand side because it is longer than the actual front panel. So it'll be hanging off a little bit on the edge, which is what we want. Just a reminder that the left front panel, if you are uncertain, it is the one with the tie and the buttonhole. Because we finished both edges which we're attaching, we won't need to serge this, so it's very neat. I didn't film this, but you want to do the exact same thing to the other bust template and front panel. Now we're going to attach them to the back panel. This is where it all starts to come together. You want to get the main bust panel and the front panel and attach it right sides together to the back panel once again. This is quite self-explanatory because the seams do line up. Once you've lined it up, we want to get the next tie. So we've already used one of the ties, but we want the other one, and we're going to slot it in between the two sheets just under where that seam line meets. And we're doing this with the right bust panel, the one that doesn't have a tie or a buttonhole, and the back panel. When you're sewing this, you also want to backstitch over that tie again just to make it more sturdy. Sometimes if your seam allowances are a bit uneven, you might have a little bit of extra fabric at the bottom. That's fine, you can just cut it off a little bit when you're hemming it. It's not a big deal at all. This happened to me, but it didn't happen on the other side. That's just because my seam allowance was a bit uneven. Then you just want to serge or zigzag stitch that edge. And do the exact same thing with the other side, except we're not adding a tie because the bust panel already has that tie installed. It should be looking like this. We're almost done. We just need to add the back straps and a button and hem the bottom. Now, I didn't add this onto the pattern because everyone's different, but I mark where I want the back straps to be. This one I did 4 inches. On some other pieces I've done 4.5 inches, but it's just where you'd feel comfortable. So maybe try it on and just see where you'd like it. Every bra straps are different, so depending on which one you're planning on wearing for this shirt, you'll need to change where you want the straps to be, where they'll go over it. And then I just do a straight stitch over it to keep it in place, and make sure you back stitch it multiple times to make sure it's very sturdy. Now we're installing the button. This is on the other bust panel. You want to put it where the interfacing is. It's not that important, so if the shirt's a little bit too big for you, you can place the button further up, and it's not too big of a deal if it doesn't go on the interfacing. The main thing is you want the buttonhole to be on the interfacing. We're almost done now. You just need to hem the bottom. I did a rolled hem again just because it's the easiest one. The good thing about this shirt is that the button can be moved depending on if it's too big, too tight around the bust area. So just make sure you try it on when you're installing the button and you should be good. And now we have finished and you made a really cute shirt, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you really liked the tutorial. This is my first ever pattern I've ever made, so I'm pretty proud of myself, and I hope that you guys like it. Bye!